can download and you can just take yourself on a tour around town. So I'll leave those just there if anybody wants one. And there's a guided history walk. It's called the Art Deco Guided History Walk. It only started 2 weeks ago, and that's tomorrow, and that's $20 a person. And I've done it a couple of times with the boys, and it's a really good tour. So if you're interested, they're just there. And Lorraine, remind me to put them back in there when we're finished. All right. Let's hope. All right, well, we might as well get started, I suppose. It's only a minute to go. People can catch up. All right, so hello, everyone. My name is Kerry. I'm from the Innisfail District Historical Society down the street and around the corner. I'm standing right in the breeze there. It's freezing. It is. I'm also with the Tropical Art Deco Festival. I'm not sure whether you know, but this is the first event of the festival starting right now, so congratulations. This is my first time as a tour guide. I've done the tour a few times. It's my first time taking people round, so I will be referring quite a bit to the script, so I haven't memorised it. All right, so welcome to the Johnson Shire Hall. So the town was first settled in 1881, and we were first known as Junction Point, then renamed Geraldton in 1883. But the name was changed in 1910 when a ship from Russia, which was bound for Geraldton in Western Australia, ended up here instead. So we became Innisfail to avoid confusion. In Irish, the name means Isle of Destiny. The Shire of Johnson was first gazetted in 1903, but we are now part of the Jackery Coast Regional Council area, which was formed in 2008, which amalgamated the Johnson and Tully Shires, which include Cardwell and Mission Beach. So that's all part of the Jackery Coast area. This is the fourth Shire Hall on this site in Rankin Street. The previous three halls burnt down in 1891. It was a tin shed type of hall. 1913 and 1932, both timber buildings, so both of those burnt down as well. So the hall was used for theatrical productions and local entertainments, as well as the business of local government. But the grand piano constantly went out of tune due to Innisfail's climatic conditions. It was saved from the fires twice, but some disgruntled citizens pushed it back inside during the last fire, and it went up in smoke along with everything else, including all of the town hall records as well. After much debate and controversy over the design and the cost, this hall was built between 1935 and 1938. Just before work was to commence, a new council was elected, so there was a redesign, which is why it took 3 years to commence the rebuild. It was built in the interwar modernist style of Art Deco and opened in 1938 and been going strong ever since. The Innisfail and Johnson Shire community wanted a fire and cyclone-proof hall for town functions, constructed from reinforced concrete. In 1918, the town of Innisfail had been devastated by a huge cyclone. It was thought to have been stronger than the 2011 cyclone Yasi, which was a Category 5. Only 9 buildings remained standing, including 2 reinforced concrete buildings. So that was enough for people to say, well, they're going to still stand, let's get concrete. So when the town was rebuilt, the emerging architectural style of the era was Art Deco, which is why so many of our buildings are in the Art Deco style. They're made of reinforced concrete, which makes them better able to withstand cyclones and fires. We have an annual Tropical Art Deco Festival, starting today, the very first event, as I've already mentioned. Every September, this is our 3rd consecutive event, and growing stronger and getting bigger each time, which is wonderful. And it celebrates our town's Art Deco heritage and architecture and history. In Queensland and throughout the world in the 1930s during the Great Depression, unemployment was extremely high. The Depression reached its lowest point in mid-32, when 30% of the nation's workforce was unemployed. The Queensland government started a public works building program to stimulate the economy and relieve poverty and unemployment, and encourage the building of large projects like this town hall. And you might recall that the Sydney Harbour Bridge was one such project in New South Wales as well. So the Johnson Shire Council applied to the Queensland Government for funding. Council's original costing was £8,000, but the final cost was £54,000. But luckily, most of this cost was covered by a subsidy and loans from the Queensland Government. The glass windows that you see at the front of the hall, which have displays in them out the front there, were actually shop frontages on either side of the foyer. So the lessees paid rent to the council, which helped to offset the cost of building the hall. Luckily, there were no rate rises required to cover the budget blowouts, because it was a really tough time financially for everyone. So Art Deco is the term used to describe the visual style and design elements in architecture, fashion, jewellery, household goods, graphics and art, transport and industrial design in the years between World War I and World War II. The term comes from the 1925 Exposition Internationale des Arts Décoratifs Industriels et Modernes, loosely translated as Modern and Industrial Art and Design, and it's held in Paris. The style developed as a celebration of technological advancement, including mass production, and was characterised by clean, geometric and elegant lines that replaced the excessive decoration of the Victorian and Edwardian eras. Its origins were in graphic art and poster design just prior to World War I in France, and grew to a worldwide movement in the 1920s and 30s. So if you look up, we can see some of these architectural features actually on the ceiling. We can see the cornices, all the decorative features. They're all notable Art Deco designs, including the lights as well, the geometric shapes. Not as ornate and frilly as the decades before, so more simplicity, more geometric. So if you take a look at the floor, the tiles are made individually from a combination of broken stone, glass, granite, quartz, and various pigments, all bound together with a cement type of mixture, and the style is known as terrazzo. After it's cured, the tiles are ground and polished smooth. Every tile here on the floor has been meticulously hand-painted. The design is a tessellating pattern, popular with Art Deco. 2 tiles have been deliberately placed upside down, and this is like a personal signature of the tiler and designer. Can anyone find the tiles that were laid upside down? Just have a look for the disruption in the pattern on the floor. I'll give you a couple of minutes to see who can find the tiles that are upside down. So it'll just ruin the pattern slightly. Let me see if I can find where it is too. Ah, yep, I see one. Yeah, go through, sure. We're just having a little tour.
How many tiles did you say?
There's 2.
Those 2.
No, that's not it. I think you've spotted it over there. Hey, how are you?
There you go.
Hey, good. All right, so there's one down here, and the only way I can find it is because I know it's lined up against the carpet. So it's down here. This one's upside down, and there's one near the entrance to the lift. Can you find that one? Can we see it? It's near the lift, I know that. I'll have to give that up. I'll be here all day. There is another one, see if you can find it. If we also look at the decorative work on the grille here at the front and the arch, that's also very Art Deco.
Is that original, those metal?
I think they are, yes. Yeah. All right. If we have a look over here in the ticket booth, remember the hall was used for social functions in the town as well, and so there were a lot of dances and balls on upstairs. And this is Isaiah. He's a paper mache figure created some years ago by a local artist called Glyn Hutton, and it was the centrepiece of an Art Deco display at a Shire Hall function upstairs. It can also be worn as a huge mask, and the wearer can see through the mesh in the neck. If you have a closer look, there's a piece of mesh going across there. You can sit it on your head and see through there, see where you're going. If you take a look, you can see that one eye is slightly higher than the other on his face, and that's how he got his name, Isaiah. One eye's higher than the other. So we're actually standing on level 3 of the building. So there are 2 floors beneath us which house offices for staff and councillors. Let's make our way up the stairs to level 4, or you can take the lift if you prefer. I'll go this way. These are all original timbers and tiles. The foyer area and the bar.
building.
It's lovely. Just lovely. I'm just about to tell you. So the hall was built by the brothers Willem and Peter van Leeuwen. The Van Leeuwen brothers settled in Innisfail in 1918, and they came from a town called Barn in Holland. The Van Leeuwen brothers had their own gang of skilled workers who'd worked on other buildings with brothers for several years around the Innisfail district. Building construction was started in November 35 and finished the 1st of July 1938. In order to get the £54,000 from the state government, the Johnson Council had to provide work for the unemployed men on either day labour or contract labour. The Van Leeuwen brothers consequently supervised a varying unskilled workforce who may never have worked on a building site before, and they couldn't use their own men. A tragic accident occurred in May 1937. A very heavy roof truss was being carried into a passageway and was going to be winched into position, but it slipped and fell. It hit Thomas Mulqueeny in the shoulder, but he wasn't seriously hurt. The truss also hit the construction foreman, Willem van Leeuwen. It fell across his neck and shoulders, bending him in two. Willem was rushed to the Innisfail General Hospital and later transferred to Brisbane for treatment. In October of that year, some 5 months later, Peter van Leeuwen travelled to Brisbane to bring his severely injured brother home. But sadly, Willem van Leeuwen died in the hospital a few weeks later here in Innisfail. Willem's funeral notice said, "Willem was well respected for his industriousness and ability as a builder. Both the brothers were of a quiet, retiring disposition, and they always worked in perfect harmony and agreement." Peter van Leeuwen took over as foreman on the construction site. None of the Van Leeuwen's own experienced employees ever worked on the construction of the hall, and it's often been wondered whether, if they had been able to, would the accident have occurred. But of course, we'll never know. All right, let's move into the hall proper. The hall's actually set up today for a citizenship ceremony, which starts at 12 o'clock. And we're just going to duck out here onto the side veranda. So a very significant event in the hall's history was Cyclone Larry. In 2006, a high Category 4 cyclone crossed the coast of Innisfail. It damaged over 10,000 homes and buildings in Innisfail and the surrounding areas. The Shire Hall was very badly damaged because of water seepage through the roof and the veranda shutter openings along here. So these were, you can see the roller shutters, but there were no windows, there was no glass. It was just open space. So the shutters, because there were no glass windows, it severely damaged the floors, the roof, the window awnings, the plaster ceiling, as well as the render on the outside of the building. It's a heritage listed building, and so it had to be repaired and renovated back to its original state, or as close as possible. Luckily, the council was permitted to add the lift, the air conditioning and state-of-the-art lighting and sound systems to make it user-friendly for all of its citizens. And it's a terrific multi-purpose building. Acoustic curtains, that's these along the side, were added as well, which made a great difference to the acoustics in here. So these windows were installed as part of the renovation, and they are metal and glass. Prior to Art Deco, the Art Deco period, all windows were made of timber and glass. Each opening was a big open space covered by a heavy steel roller shutter. During functions, they would be open to let the cross breezes in. During the cyclone, the roller shutters bowed and came out of their tracks. The cyclonic winds flapped the shutters around until the bolts that were holding them up came out of the concrete wall. The shutters flew across the hall and landed on the dance floor, leaving big gouges in the timber. All the shutters along this side and several on the other side fell off. So it was just open to the elements with rain and wind howling and making a dreadful mess in here. It was tragic, the damage that was caused. So because the rain was always going to blow in before the shutters could be closed during functions, a drainage system had to be designed with a slight slope on the veranda. You can see that there's a channel along the edge here, and there's a complicated network of pipes and little catchment areas for the water to go so that it doesn't end up on the floor. So the Shire Hall had a chapel grand piano, which was normally stored halfway along the veranda down here. And one of the shutters came loose and fell down on top of the piano, and it split the piano in half horizontally. I'm not quite sure how, but that's what happened. A new Steinway grand piano, one of only 6 in Queensland, was purchased at a cost of $250,000, and it's used in performances by visiting musicians. It'll be out on the stage on Friday night for our Roaring Twenties cabaret. It'll be used then. So the purchase created much community discussion at the time, you might say. A lot of people couldn't see the value in a $250,000 piano, and I was possibly one of them at the time, but having heard it and seen it used, it's just a magnificent instrument. It now has its own dehumidified cupboard, and our high humidity makes musical instruments go out of tune very quickly. So for such an expensive instrument, it was important to store it properly. All right, let's move out onto the timber dance floor. So the original dance floor in here was made from black bean, which is a dark rainforest timber. It was impossible to replace it as there was no logging of the rainforests anymore. So Kwila timber was sourced from Papua New Guinea and made into floorboards, which were put down over the top of the original black bean floor. It was the closest timber match that could be found in terms of colour and size and pattern. The cost of repairs, modifications and renovation to the Shire Hall was $17 million. And luckily most of that came from insurance. I can't recall, Lorraine, do you remember at the time whether ratepayers got a hit on their rates? I can't remember, it was a long time ago. Yeah, so did really well to reconstruct it, and it's bigger and better than ever. Yeah, yeah, being a heritage listed building. It was the Johnson Shire, yes. Well, the fact of the purchase of the piano became a reason to sack the council. The state government stepped in, sacked the council and said, you spent $250,000 on insurance money on a piano. We don't think that's the right thing. And there were a couple of other things at the time that were a little bit controversial, so the council was actually sacked, which is a bit embarrassing.
I think us ratepayers paid for the piano, didn't we?
No, I'm pretty sure it came out of the insurance because the other piano had been damaged. It would have been expensive as well, but not that expensive. All right, so Art Deco features. We can see the elliptical ceiling, sort of an arch there. We can see the decorative keystone at the front, all that beautiful green work there on the arch, just lovely. The panelling under the columns here is all walnut timber. And these are I think they're ionic, they're embellished ionic columns. They've got a bit of a ionic capital on the top there. We see the round features there. They're like portholes on a ship. Remember, it was the age of ocean liner travel. And so a lot of the features in Art Deco architecture have to do with machinery and transport, like the ships and trains with the curved edges and like that. We can see the decorative keystone above the stage. We've got all the beautiful lights there, the hexagonal shape and the geometric shapes there, and that's all metal and glass there. Once again, that was, a fairly new thing, using metal in fittings and fixtures. Previously it would have all been timber. The sunbursts, where are the sunbursts? There's some sunbursts somewhere. They represent the dawn of a new era, which is what Art Deco was all about. And remember, that was a huge time of social change as well, with the vote for women, people, women going to work during the wars because men were away fighting in wars. So it was a new era altogether. So over the years in the hall here, we've had Morning Melodies, which still goes today. It's been going around for quite a while. Morning Melodies is a performer comes to town. They do a show here in the hall, and it's a great way of getting arts and performances in regional areas of Queensland, and it's called Morning Melodies. There were Saturday night dances in the 50s and 60s that people would dress up for, and local bands that were quite famous at the time. There was also a ball called the Post Office Ball, and every table had its own telephone. It would take all day to set up the telephone system. Every table had its own telephone. You could call any table and send telegrams to people all night long. It was quite, people talk about it still as quite an incredible thing. You went to one of those? Okay. That was before my time, before I lived here. There are school events like the Young Performers Choir Day competition, which is in here with hundreds of school kids sitting here waiting their turn to go on the stage to sing. There have been lots of debutante balls and weddings, grade 12 formals and graduations, community meetings, martial arts competitions have been held in here, travelling variety shows and concerts, and the annual dances, Stedfords and recitals, and of course the Tropical Art Deco Festival. We've got the Shire Hall tour today and also on Friday. We've had high teas here in the hall before. We've got a cabaret on Friday night, and the vintage markets will be here on Sunday. So if you're in town for a few days, if you're visiting, make sure you stay for the next couple of days. There's lots on to see and do. All right. If you want to have a little bit of a walk around, take some photos, you're welcome to do that. Yeah, it's pretty much the same. Yeah. Going out, just be careful of the wet bit there, it'll be slippery.
Yeah, good enough.
Yeah. All right, just watch the wet bits there, be a bit slippery. All right, so there are a large number of prominent buildings in the area that are still standing today that were also built by the Van Leeuwen brothers. They were very prolific. So the Queen's Hotel next door, that's not the best angle to see it from, but if you go across the road and have a look, it's a lovely old hotel. And it's been refurbished inside with very much an Art Deco flavour. And it's just changed hands, and we're hoping it'll be open soon.
Beautiful inside. He did such a good job of it.
Yes,
He really
it's great. So it's a great venue for Art Deco events, which we've had there in the past. We hope to do so in the future. So the Bank of New South Wales is this grey building over the road. That was built by the Van Leeuwens as well. And it's now a doctor's surgery called Rankin Street Medical. So the Commonwealth Bank is down opposite the river. That was built by them as well. It's now the 4KZ radio station. National Bank on this side of the street, just on the corner. It's quite a big bank. That's now Ray White Real Estate, and all through town there are other buildings as well, including the Grand Central Hotel, which is now the Central Arcade. If we look this way, straight up, there's the water tower, which is very important to our town's water supply. That was built by the brothers as well. If we have a look over at the library across the road, we can see the cigarello design and what we call banding. Those sort of horizontal stripes. Banding can be horizontal or vertical, and that's what we call relief banding, because it sticks out. If we look here on the wall, we see banding, but it's incised. So it can either go in or pop out. We see here in Archidano House, straight across, the Spanish Moroccan influence, and we see the popular Art Deco motif, the tulips on the posts there, and there is what's called a rule of 3 with Art Deco. 3 was thought to be a lucky number or just a very balanced number, and so things are often grouped together in groups of 3, as in the vertical banding on the yellow and white bits. So we've got the white one, the yellow one, and the cream, the yellow and the white. We've got what we call the winds of change on the design in the middle there, and what we call a ziggurat or stepped shape on this building over here, the dental surgery, and further down. And we see the chevron, the yellow chevron on that one. Unfortunately, our buildings aren't looking their best. The weather is shocking periodically in Innisfail. It's a very expensive exercise to undertake to clean your buildings. You might notice that the church up here, the Catholic Church, is being refurbished at the moment. They're getting rid of all the mould and mildew. And word around town is that it cost $100,000 just to put the scaffolding up before they started work. So as I say, it's a very expensive exercise. And we'd love if...
Put the scaffolding up?
Yeah, just the scaffolding. Apparently it was $100,000. Yeah. So you see over here the dental surgery. It's got the rounded ship shape, so to speak, on the entry there, and we call that little entry an ingo. An ingo is a welcoming entry, so lots of buildings have those on them, and you just think, well, that's the entrance, but its technical name is the ingo. So there you go, learnt something today.
Well, these buildings are protected under any laws, so if people want to come in and change them, they just can't demolish them, or if they renovate, they have to keep it in the Art Deco.
Well, no, they don't have to, but they're certainly strongly encouraged. There was quite a controversy just a little bit further down the street where a beautiful old Art Deco building was just covered up in tin, and there was a real outcry in the town about, you know, covering up the Art Deco features, but there was no law that prevented them from doing it. So that was a bit unfortunate. The Woolworths building down further was quite dilapidated some time ago. I'm not sure how long Woolworths has been updated. Anybody remember? It's about 15, 20 years or something. Yeah. And before that it was quite daggy and terrible, and when they took off some panelling at the front, they found all these beautiful Art Deco features underneath, and they've restored them all, and they look quite beautiful. So Woolies has been totally revamped and looks fantastic. Right, so if we look up, we see the Art Deco influence in the geometric design on the ceiling there. If you're over under the awning there, then there's beautiful coloured features as well that match the paintwork there. So the colours of the building are true to the original. The colour was a bit controversial back in 2008, but I think it's grown on everyone by now, and it's quite distinctive. Well, that's about the end of the tour from my point of view. I'd like to thank you for coming today. The Historical Society's mission is to preserve the past for the future, and this includes passing on the word about our magnificent Shire Hall and our Art Deco buildings. You might like to do the self-guided tour. Download the app. I showed you that booklet down in the foyer. If you didn't get one, there's some downstairs. There's also a guided town walk on Thursdays from May to November, so there are vacancies on the tour tomorrow. You just go online on Try Booking and you can book it and do it. It's $20. Be sure to visit our museum. It's down the street, just past the post office, turn left, and you'll see a big sign, museum. And I'll see you down there. It's open till 12 p.m. most days, Monday to Saturday, but during the festival it's open till 2 p.m. So we're there till 2 p.m. today. So if you're here for the Tropical Art Deco Festival, make sure you enjoy yourself, make sure you get out to all the events. There's meant to be a cemetery walk tonight where we talk about historical characters from the town's pioneering days and during the Art Deco era. I've got my fingers crossed that the rain's going to clear and that it'll be on, but it might not be. So if you turn up and there's no one there, you'll know it was called off. But it'll be on Facebook if there's a message. And it'll be on the Tropical Art Deco Facebook or on the Historical Society Facebook page. So thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day and your stay with us, and please let people know about our lovely Shire Hall, our Art Deco architecture, and our festival in September, where everyone can dress up and have some fun. All right. Thank you. Thank you. It's great to see so many. Terrific. Can't believe it. Great.
You visiting out of town?
Oh, we've just moved in.
Oh, have you?
Oh, yeah.
So we just moved down from Queensland.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Climate, so we're trying to find out as much as we can.
Yeah, that's
Ah.
yeah, it's good we have a bit of a shindig to show you.
Yeah, it's a beautiful building.
Yeah, come to the boy, yeah. If you ever get to those Melanie shows, they're really good.
Oh, the next one coming up is meant to be quite good.
They're in here?
Yeah.
Yeah, in the Shire Hall, yeah. Put a little flyer maybe downstairs at that info booth with the dates and that. And then we'll run to there's one coming up soon.
Yeah, October.
Yeah, Tuesday morning they usually
Yeah.
have them on.
About 10 o'clock or something. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, about $20 a head, $25, something like
Buy
that.
tickets today.
Many years have gone now since the people came, cleared the land and plowed it, planted sugar cane. They cleared it all by hand then, not like we do now, with broad blade axe and muscle, and horse and yoke and plow. And they made a town, they made it on a bend of a river, and they called it Innisfail. Yes, they called it Innisfail. Then their sons and grandsons, men from other lands, followed their tradition, cleared further this expanse, and the people intermingled their blood and song and dance, and from their many cultures our own they did enhance. And they made a town, they made it on a bend of a river, and they called it Innisfail. Yes, they called it Innisfail. Men don't go to harvest in such numbers now. Machines have now replaced them, the knife, the horse, the plow. But still we're moving forward. We heed a thought for them. The festival we celebrate, the women and the men.